Hi everybody, welcome to our first video review for the zspot.com disaster preparedness and gear reviews. Today we're going to review the Strikefire Red Dot system. Online reviews of this say that it's right up there with any aim point, scope, or red dot system. So we'll unbox it, get it open, mounted, and see how it fits, and we'll go from there. So unboxing it, it comes with several different things. You have your battery and your mount. It also comes with a 2x sight doubler. So if you want to see a little further in the distance, it has Torx heads here, which are very secure. That's good. The battery is very cheap. Of course, everything is made in China, so I would suggest getting a better battery. Doubler will open up here. I believe it just screws in from the back side there, and has the ability to adjust the clarity there. And then it has a little torque wrench, owner's manual, and a wipe cloth. So now we'll open the actual sight. Wrapping is pretty stable. I wouldn't really worry about that. Everything's bubble wrapped. Comes with some little tag about the on and off switch. Now, the majority of the reviews I've read say that it is very hard or very easy to bump the on and off switch and accidentally change the color or turn it off. I'm going to play around and get a little creative with how we mount it to see if we can avoid that from happening. Pop-up caps are really easy to open. I don't know why online they say it's really hard to close. I really didn't have too many issues with closing it right there. That seems to be the major complaint, is that they're very hard to close. Find that just a little bit of pressure closes them right up. That could be different on the rifle. We'll see once we get it there. So now I'm going to go ahead and we'll put the battery in and get it mounted up, and then see how it looks. So the battery would go in. Should be negative to the cover. It's got a picture right here. It tells you what. There is an O-ring on the cover, of course, because it is waterproof, or water resistant, excuse me. So you want to get that in there, get that tight, make sure the O-ring is sealing. If we open that up, turn it on. You should have the red dot. Alright, so after some minor adjustment here, I was able to get the light to come back on. It seemed that I had tightened it too tight and the O-ring had completely crushed. I guess too tight of a connection is enough to set it off. It's still stable because of the O-ring. I might actually double that up just to make sure I get a good seal. The O-rings do appear possibly to be a little cheap, and it looked a little thin for its purpose. So turning it on, we should have the red dot now. Oh, it's on green. I don't know if you guys can see that. Power button changes the recticle color from red to green. Holding the power button down for, I believe, 6 seconds should shut it off completely. Now there's some other buttons here. This one ups the intensity of the light. This one will lower the intensity, and then the night vision button, which is rumored to be easily bumped as well, pretty much cuts the light down to 0 in case you're using night vision optics behind your red dot system. I noticed that if you put it in a completely dark room, you can see the green slightly, but not the red at all. So like I said, again, I'm going to try to get creative with how to mount this, so we can try to avoid that altogether. So without that being said, we'll go ahead and get the mount taken care of. It's a Torx 15-bit, by the way. Very common head size. So we'll go ahead and unscrew those. I should get that right off. And we're going to go ahead and mount this. Typical mounting would be about like so. I think I'm going to swing it down and put this down along the rail. That way it has less likelihood of being bumped. And you can still use windage and elevation the same. You'll just have to swap the two. So windage will become elevation, and elevation will become windage. I'm also going to mount it as far forward as I can because I do have a backup sight that I like to keep on there, and that way we won't have any problems with being able to see through it with a backup sight. Co-witnessing is called. So it's just these 6 screws. And wouldn't tighten them all down at once, of course. Make sure you get them all started, and then tighten down, alternating which ones you tighten. Okay. Should be just about tight. You've still got a little bit of movement. Like I said, typically your mounting would be like so, and your rail would be here. This would be the trigger or the power button on the left-hand side. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it down. That way it sits a little closer to the rail, and I can adjust it once it's on the rifle. Make sure it's dead straight. So we'll go ahead and get these tightened. You don't need to overkill them. They do stay pretty tight. If you wanted to, you could always put a little bit of Loctite. Probably not necessary for your optics, as you may need to take them off for cleaning every once in a while. I would, however, suggest just rechecking for tightness every once in a while after you've put, a couple hundred rounds through it or something. Okay, that should be pretty good. So with that, we'll go to the mounting stage. Okay, now we're ready to mount our Strikefire Red Dot sight onto the flat top AR-15 here, M4, whatever you want to call it. It does come with your typical coin or screwdriver operated nut. I used to like to use the stubby full handle screwdriver. It gives me a little better feel as far as what I'm doing there. Like I said, I'm going to mount it as far forward as I can because I do have a backup sight here that I like to use for co-witnessing. And of course anything within 50 yards or so. It sticks over a little bit, that's alright. I do run my backup sight a little far forward so that it doesn't interfere with my charging handle. Some people like to run a little back further. If you do that, you still may be able to get the 2x magnifier in and still use your backup sight. With my setup here, I wouldn't be able to do so because I run this a little further forward just for clearance in case I've got gloves on or something like that. It looks like I'm pretty good as far as rotating it around. Got the lens covers rotated down so they're in the way they're supposed to be. And like I said, online I see a lot of people complaining about those. I don't know what the problem is. That was really easy. Even being on the rifle, if I one-hand it, it's easy. Easy. I don't know what people are complaining about, so we'll move on. Get this a little snug here. Actually, a wider tip screwdriver might need to be necessary because this nut is pretty large. It is a hex nut as well, so you may be able to get a socket on it. To check that next time. Actually, I need to adjust the scope a little bit. It's off just a hair, and I want to make sure it's straight so I don't have to remount it again later after I get it to the range. Now, scope does allow for a little bit of play here. I'm going to run mine all the way forward just so it's flush against this flat part here and not against this rounded part. That will cause unnecessary wear on the finish. Not a big deal, but if you want it to stay black and not have to touch up the paint, just do it right the first time and never have to do it again. This bench block here is a lifesaver as far as working on your rifle. I suggest if you don't have one, that you get one right away. I believe they're, if I can remember correctly, they're about $30 or so. You can get them lots of places. I think DPMS makes them. I think there's a couple other companies as well. One company has them in black. I happen to have the DPSM white polymer here. The black one I didn't care for. You know, if you happen to get a big nick in it, it could mar the inside of the rifle, and since it's black, you might not see it. The white one here happens to show everything. Not only that, it's angled for your magazine well, so it works for holding it that way. It's also you can, you know, if the upper's off, you can flip the rifle over and work on it from both sides. If you want to call it ambidextrous, you can have it on left, right. It doesn't really matter. It'll lock into place with the mag catch anyway, and it doesn't come off without the mag catch. So there it is. We're on. Let's get it turned on. It's still easy to put a button on. It's a little out of spec. Even with my backup sight, it's a little off, but it's pretty close. Not too much adjustment will need to be done. I think I'll set it up for just being the top of the front sight and then readjust it once I do get it to the range to be able to double check it. But it's not too far off, just a couple of clicks either way, and we should be good. So with that, that concludes our review. The mount's solid. I don't foresee any problems going through. The recticle's really clear. The glass is clear. Kept it out in the garage for the past couple of days before putting it on, and there is no fogging. And it's been pretty cold and wet out here, so that's a good sign. So yeah, check back soon. Once we get it to the range, I'll do a follow-up and see how it performed under fire, and give it a review at that point. You know, something else I have planned for our next review. I already do have a lighting system on this rifle. We're going to go ahead and use the Magpul MOE dual illumination kit. It comes with a mount and new style and old style pressure switch holders. So yeah, check back soon. That'll be our next review. Thanks again for checking us out, and be sure to check out the-z-spot.com for more reviews and disaster preparedness tips. Thanks.